Remarkable Value 4386 asks, boyfriend won't post/acknowledge on social media, but wants me to post. I've been with my boyfriend for almost a year, and I've posted us whenever it feels natural. Having a nice dinner, on vacation, maybe something nice he does for me. I'm not a huge social media person, but every now and then I like to highlight some times of my life. He has never once posted us, and I brought it up a couple months ago, and he just shrugged it off, saying he didn't think much of it. No big deal. I don't really care much anyways. Now, several months later, I've commented on a few posts just encouraging him or leaving a heart, and he doesn't like or acknowledge or reply to me, even if he interacts with others in the same post. I didn't think much of it until we went on vacation, and he posted a few things, but not a thing of us. So I brought it up again because it just feels imbalanced at this point. Before I started posting us, he'd get on my case about how my Instagram just looks like I was single. And I'm like, ? So does yours? ? And now that I've posted us, he doesn't reciprocate. And while I don't think it's a big deal, it hurts. He can't even acknowledge me when he replies to others. Am I overthinking it? Probably. IDK, I just want some outside opinions.
Thank you for the question. I think you got to ask him for it directly. You want to be acknowledged in front of other people. This is a normal and common desire to feel seen, to feel like your partner's proud of you and they're willing to like show the world their affection for you, and it's not like something that they're ashamed of or that they're keeping a secret. So I think you just got to ask for that in the ways that you want it. It sounds like you want it online in terms of having some like public conversations. And maybe he's got some reason. Also, when you ask for it, be willing to listen. If there's like somebody who's watching his social media account, maybe a coworker, a family member, or somebody who's judgmental of him, or that he wants to avoid like bringing his romantic life onto the internet, into that visible space, and maybe he's more comfortable like kissing you in public or doing something that's not online, and then maybe you can get this need met that way. But if you want it online, I think you got to ask for the specifics, and it's okay to want these things.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like she's saying that she has asked for it. But maybe not.
I heard
directly.
you read it with your eyes, and I just listened with my ears. But I was hearing that she asked why he didn't, and he just said it wasn't a big deal to him. That might not be. She might have seen that interaction as her requesting the thing, but without a direct, hey, like use the nonviolent communication of, here's what I've noticed, here are my feelings about it, here's what I would like, and here's why it's important to me.
Yeah. Yeah. You're
right.
You might
need all of that encouragement to do it.
You're right.
And also be willing to like ask him, what does that cost him? Like, what is that? Does that hurt him? Does that shame him? And be willing to hear his answer, even if it's something that you dislike. Like, he may have different values or care about somebody's opinion that you think is dumb or meaningless, but like his old buddy thinks it's soft or unmanly or something for men to post pictures of their girlfriends, and he's heard him making fun of it. You know, that might be a vulnerable thing for him to tell you, that he cares about somebody else's opinion like that.
Yeah, and I'm sure that it's vulnerable for you too to even kind of state this need, because as you're saying, like, you're like, well, it's not that big of a deal to me, but it is creating this discomfort or sense of hurt. So I think that maybe you need to model to him like, hey, even though I don't like that this means something to me, it does. And so I really need you to take it more seriously. And that requires you to take this need more seriously in yourself, because probably what you're doing, which we all have this tendency to do, is kind of minimize something that we want or need because we wish we didn't want or need it. And it doesn't feel good to have to ask for this type of validation or show display of affection. But denying that you want it or trying to downplay how significant it is to you definitely doesn't help the situation, because it just kind of continues to breed resentment and a lack of communication where, like Rob said, maybe it feels like you're asking for it more directly or assertively than you really are, because it's going through that layer that you're adding of, well, this doesn't really mean that much to me. It's no big deal. It's just social media, yada, yada, yada. But whether we like it or not, a lot of our lives take place on social media or inform other people's perceptions of us or our perceptions of us. And I think that there's work to be done around just owning what that is, owning the impact this has on our lives, and then owning the impact that it happens to have in your relationship right now. And maybe you can even offer it as like some kind of fun, creative trade-off. Like, you do this for me and I'll think of something that you might want from me. I don't know, make it something playful and fun. Because I know at the beginning of your post, you said, I would just kind of post when it felt natural. So it can be hard to overcome that hump of like, oh, he's not doing this thing naturally and I wish it were more organic. But if you make it fun and worthwhile and a win-win for both people, it can regain some of that sense of, oh, this isn't this big drag. It's something that we do together. It's something that is fun for us and rewarding for both of us in different ways. And, relationships are always about some level of compromise and taking care of each other's needs. And the more that you don't own that this is a need that you have, it's not going to get met. And it's going to create further distance between the two of you. And I really want to normalize, and the reason that I picked this question is because I really just wanted to normalize that this is a request. This is a very fair request. And it's something that we all want. Like Rob said in the beginning, we all want to feel seen, and in this public way, that's become meaningful in our culture, in our way of life. And yeah, that kind of sucks in a way, but in another way, of course it makes sense, because it plays on our evolutionary desire to have status, and that's not something that's like within our control. It's just the world that we're living in and these bodies and these egos that we have to contend with.
Yeah. I would just advise caution on asking for too much control over his like sense of identity. I think like demanding versus like be willing to hear a no and accept a no if it's something like you want his main profile picture to be a picture of the two of you. It may be important to him to feel like an autonomous individual, and it could lead to other problems in the relationship if he feels like he has to identify only as like a part of a two-person unit.
I agree, but
just talk to him about how he feels about it.
The other thing I want to mention that I forgot to pick up in my comments too was like, he acknowledges that like when the shoe's on the other foot, he said, okay, so it looks like he was on her case about how her Instagram made her look like she was single. So
did he say that was before they were dating? Did she say that? That's what
it says. I brought it before I started posting us. He'd get on my case about how my Instagram just looked like I was single. And she said, okay, well, so does yours. And then now she's posted pictures of the two of them and he hasn't. So to me, I'm kind of like on the poster's side to some extent, which I love that we're like taking these kind of opposite views. Because it's like, from the perspective of the guy, it's like, well, I don't want other guys to look at your Instagram and think that you're single and not see me represented and not see that you're taken. So how is that any different from her wanting him to show her off and have some kind of signal, not necessarily to other women, but to her that she's meaningful in his life? So I don't know. I don't know how much, I don't know where the right boundary is between, well, this is my identity online and I want to preserve this element of my independence. I'm all for preserving independence. But on the other hand, like, oh, it's like when the shoe's on the other foot, now it's important to him. It's a bit of a double standard.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe an advanced move to recognize that sometimes you need to be able to ask for things that you're unwilling to give your partner, but like it doesn't all have to be symmetrical. But yeah, in this case, on this doesn't seem like it's a huge issue yet, or something that's like really causing a rift between the two of you in a huge way. But I would examine why it matters to you. It may be that it feels like he's trying to hide you from other potential women that he might be interested in, and just you can talk about that, especially just conversing in comments or liking comments, and that I think should be a simple and easy thing for him to do. If he does it anyway, then like if he's commenting with other people or liking other things, like just hey, can you like my posts sometimes? It'd make me feel supported in a public way, and that would make me happy.
Yeah. I think you're right, though, that it is worth her questioning on a deeper level. Okay, well, what does this mean to me that he's acknowledging me, posting me, all that stuff? Because if he really did have resistance to doing those things, there are other ways, I think, to validate that need. So really understanding, well, what is at the basis of the need, I think is important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sweet. Do you have anything else you want to say? Oh, sorry. So you do have more to say.
It's harder after he posted. Yeah, I do. I got something. It's harder when he was posting other things from the vacation that weren't anything about the two of you. If he just wasn't using social media at all, then I think it's a harder request to be like, hey, can you incorporate this like potentially toxic habit into your life so that other people can see that we're dating? But if he's using it already, then like having requests, I think that's reasonable, or more grounded. I could see why it's more hurtful if he's posting some things. But then he may opt for the route of, okay, well, I'm just going to stop using social media because it sounds like another thing that I can fuck up. That's been largely my approach to these issues.
That's funny. I mean, he may choose that route, and that would be fair, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, well, you know, we hope that this at least gives you some new avenues to pursue it and chew on it, and hopefully just bridge gaps between the two of you rather than further create that imbalance that you're pointing to. So I hope this is it's helpful to hear, you know, these outside opinions, like you said. And we wish you all the frickin' best. Let us know how it goes.
Free advice. 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 Would you like free advice? Free advice. Free advice. Free advice. Free advice. Forever.
Welcome.
Go for it. Welcome.
Welcome to Free Advice, episode 65, motherfuckers.
Ow, ow.
Do you think Eiffel 65 would be proud of us for making it this far?
Yeah, I mean, how far did they make it?
Maybe they gave up
I
at
feel
65.
like, I liked their album. I liked Blue Dabba Dee Dabba Die was a super catchy song.
Oh, I
mean,
fucking
listen
loved
to
that album.
That's on my list of greatest earworms of all time. You know, an earworm is a worm that slithers into your ear and then gets stuck in your brain, wiggling around.
Yeah.
Can you think of a song that just really gets stuck more than I'm blue dabba dee dabba die dabba dee? Oh,
Yeah,
man,
I got
think
you.
about that
I
crowd
got
of
you
little
covered.
blue aliens.
Macarena. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't get stuck that precisely, but the Macarena part, very, very sticky.
Right. See, that one has some confusion around what are those words.
Hey, Macarena.
And maybe it has that going for it. It makes you want to listen to it to try and, like, I think a certain, like, difficulty remembering makes you want to play the song again, so that, you know, it's that, like, you can almost figure it out. You can remember little pieces of it, but you need to hear it because it's like a blurry photograph you want to increase the resolution on in your brain.
Yeah. It's got like a very non-specific exoticism to it. Very compelling. It's like, what is the
I'm going to
origin
take
of that?
Blue over Macarena.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never going to not choose Eiffel 65. I had that album. I had Europop. I even followed them into their like Italian music career. When I came back from studying abroad in Italy, I was like, oh my God, this band that I fucking loved when I was like 9 also is Italian and sings music in Italian. And I was like insistent that I was going to remember the language that I had just learned. But, you know, I didn't, but I still
I
love
didn't
them.
know that.
Yeah, yeah. Viaggia insieme a me. Oh, what a classic. A classic to no one but me. But anywho, how are you doing right now? Do you have any questions, calls for advice that you want to ask me, or any just updates you want to share about your life in general before we get back to the listeners?
I've been looking for foster dogs. I don't think that you're going to give me really good advice on how to pick them and
No,
what to.
that's not my specialty.
Yeah, so I'm just telling you that.
That's good.
Nah. You got any?
Do I got any?
Anything? Yeah, you got anything you need advice on?
I don't know if I do either. I'm kind of chomping at the bit to get to our questions that we've picked out because we've got so many good ones. But cool. I also feel
Jump away.
boy, I don't really want to deprive our listeners of like, well, what's going on in our lives? Because I'm sure that's what they're living for.
All right, give one really little detail from your life then.
Okay, one really little detail from my life then. On the pet front, I have 2 rabbits, Cosmo and Yoki, as some of you may know. And Cosmo has been very sleepy lately. And I'm hoping it's just because of the hot weather. But I got nervous because he had a bit of a health scare around this time, actually last year. And so I'm just keeping an eye on him. But I'm hoping that, like, have you felt sleepier this time of year, this climate? Can you relate to Cosmo in this way?
No, actually, I've felt more awake recently. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
That's not helping.
That's kind of how I feel in the summer, too. I'm excited. I love it. I love being hot, but I'm also not covered in fur. So, you know.
Sure.
It is what it is.
Could you shave him? Would that be good for him? If you made him like a hairless cat?
Oh my God. I can't even imagine what that would look like. I did have to cut a bunch of his hair off because he has this like long shaggy hair and sometimes it gets matted. So I just have to cut a bunch of it off at different points. And he looks so funny. Like he looks so different. You know, it's like when a human male gets like a dramatic haircut and suddenly it's like, whoop, like he looks like a little boy. Which brings me to actually one of our questions. So I'm going to just jump right into that.
Okay.
Because I think it's just so apropos. So this one comes to us from Candle Burner. I was forced to get my hair cut. How do I deal with having hair that I feel ashamed of? Yeah, I know. After a few months of trying to grow it out a bit so that I could try some new stuff, I was forced to get my hair cut very short, 2 all over. Now I don't feel comfortable being seen by others, but I still have to go to work. I don't know what to do. I feel so humiliated.
Okay. Have you ever heard the advice, when you get a nose job, also change your hair so that people think that that's the thing that's making you look different?
I've never heard that, no. Is that a real thing?
That street goes both ways. If you get a haircut you don't like, you can get a nose job so that people are like, oh, wow, that nose is different. Distracts from the hair.
Yeah.
No, that's kind of a joking suggestion. I'm sure your nose is great. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of difficulties with deviated septums and things. I guess the nose is a common problem area for health and for looks reasons, according to our cultural standards. But that's not that serious of a suggestion. All right, I'm gonna start off with hats.
Yep.
Maybe you can't wear a hat at work, which okay, that's tough. Next, gel and oils. You could try any of those. Brushing, combing. I don't know, Morgan. Try maybe glasses, non-prescription lenses if you don't have glasses yet. Maybe that works better with your hair.
Yeah, so I think practically all the things that you suggested are great. A hat, gel, brushing, all those things.
Can you grow facial hair?
Oh, good question. Yeah, so so I think that, like, I guess the first thing that I want to say is, as someone who used to very frequently change my hair and was very attached to how it looked, I mean, it's a little different across the like male-female divide, but I would get so upset when my hair would get cut shorter than I wanted. And, you know, my mom would say, like, well, that's the thing about hair, it grows. And she's right, but it also was really frustrating feedback, because it's like, well, that doesn't help me right now because I'm just feeling shitty. And so I really empathize with that sense of feeling humiliated and just not wanting people to see you looking suboptimal, or your perception. Of course, it's important to say that that's your perception too. And you're comparing yourself to a version of yourself that you preferred with the longer hair, but someone else may not have a preference, or, you know, may not really be as familiar with your hair setup as you are, and generally people aren't paying as much attention to us as we think, or maybe even hope on some level. Again, that's not the most helpful advice to when someone says I'm feeling ashamed of how I look, to go, no, don't worry, no one's looking at you anyway, you fuck, because no one wants to hear that either. But it is important to say that hair grows, and that you won't be stuck with this forever. And there are a lot of things in life where we have to just sort of take a deep breath and go, okay, this is what this is right now. This is shitty right now. This is not my preference. And my hair is a piece of my identity. And I want people to think a certain thing about my identity, or, you know, feel a certain way about me, or find me attractive, or think that I'm sophisticated and I don't feel like myself, or I don't feel like those things in this hair. And when your hair is as short as you're saying it is, there's not really that much you can do aside from, I think, like wearing a hat, to radically change it. So I think the real work here is to disconnect your sense of identity from how your hair looks. And I think that this is a really valuable trick and lesson to start practicing now. Is reframing, like, how can I use my discomfort about this haircut to learn a really important lesson, and to practice thinking about the things that I like about myself that having bad hair doesn't change. Or you can also get creative about, okay, well, what other aspects of my look are things that I care about and can adjust and use to kind of compensate, not necessarily hide or mask, but kind of lean into the look that you want to have, to compensate for this thing that you can't change right now about your appearance, and that you have to kind of just wait out.
Yeah. You can go for a more streamlined look altogether. You could put those little notches with the buzzer into your sideburns, or the back of the neck, or even the eyebrow. Careful around your eye, but that's something that it's a trend these days. You can become a shinier person by just rubbing coconut oil all over your scalp and head and face, and maybe that,
when in doubt, be shinier.
That slickens you.
Yeah, you could also make a really dramatic
I've
other
enjoyed
choice.
That.
that would distract people from your hair, like wearing a tube top. No one will look at your hair if you're wearing a tube top.
Tube top. Tank top, okay. Get your ears pierced. Put some lightning bolts in there. That was pretty fun. I did that.
Yeah.
And wait it out. You'll both get more comfortable with the way it looks while it starts to look a little bit more normal. My old barber used to say, what's the difference between a bad haircut and a good haircut? About 2 weeks. I thought that was really funny. And then if this is like really bad, 2 weeks is also the amount of time that people are supposed to quarantine if they have a coronavirus exposure. So I don't recommend like exposing yourself, but you could
pretend.
Come up with a scenario. You take a little bit of artistic license for how you could be concerned that at some, you may have come in contact with somebody or had an exposed moment, and you need to protect your peers by taking 2 weeks off.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I wouldn't do that, but you could.
Yeah. Yeah. So try to see this as an opportunity to embrace something or accept something that you can't really control right now, and just see how it feels. Document this period of time with how difficult this is, and then before you know it, your hair will be back. But we know it sucks to be in this middle phase. It does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, Morgan, next question. Hit me with it.
All right, next question comes to us from @.thesubtilraisin. First date with a shy guy.
@.thesubtilraisin?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know what they're really insinuating there, but they want to know about a first date with a shy guy. Recently,
you're talking shy guy like from the Mario universe?
Yes, he's wearing a hoodie and a hockey mask.
Red hooded characters. Yeah, you know him. It's one of those.
Yes, I've entered a video game, and I'm going on a date with one of the characters. I hope they don't show up in any porn. Okay, first date with a shy guy.
It's a throwback.
Yes.
Yeah.
Recently, some friends of mine decided to introduce me to one of their friends. We've been texting for a while now, and he's asked me on a date. I said yes, obviously. The thing is, I know he's a shy guy. I know that once you get to know him, he's really sweet and funny, but I'm more of an extrovert, and I'm not shy at all if I feel comfortable. Do you have any tips? I don't want the date to seem boring just because he's not 100% comfortable. Is there any way I could make sure he's having a good time?
Well, I think you can't guarantee that he's having a good time.
Totally.
But making yourself more comfortable with moments of silence could go a long way. I think a lot of people are shy, or I'll speak for myself, I feel shy when I feel an abundance of concern for other people. So if you can make yourself more self-sufficient and just enjoy the environment, like not tense up in awkwardness because there's been 10 seconds of not talking, or that could go a long way to helping him out, just like slowing down the pace or expectation of it being an exciting conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like you guys have been texting for a little while, and, he's a friend of a friend. So you probably do have some baseline things to connect on. So if you've been enjoying the texting and, you guys are kind of in the same circles, I'm sure you'll have a lot to talk about. So I think that it's not worth exhausting a whole lot of energy worrying if the date's not going to go well, because I think sometimes that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and like, you can start to get anxious about it. And the other thing is, if you're an extrovert and the date doesn't go well and you guys don't click and the conversation doesn't flow, that could be a sign that you guys aren't that compatible. And I think that it's okay to allow for that reality or that possibility to exist. You may be enjoying each other right now, and You may have a fun time. You may have a boring time. You may decide you do want to see each other again. You may decide you don't want to see each other again. But like Rob said, try to just enjoy the date for what it is and view it as an opportunity to feel out if there is a connection, not necessarily to force a connection or to make sure that there is one. Because you can't control that sort of thing. You can't engineer chemistry and compatibility. It's sort of there or it's not to some extent. And right. I think that you would be better served if you gave yourself a little bit more agency and authority to make that decision versus worrying about if you're going to please him or create a good environment for him on this date. You should be just as important a part of the equation and your enjoyment of it as he is.
I've always thought that good dates are characterized by me caring as much about how I feel about the other person as I do about how they care about me.
Yeah.
And if there's a huge imbalance where I'm really overly focused on do they like me, and I'm not asking myself, do I like them, then tends to just not be as enjoyable for either of us. So, and conversely, if it's just me focused on my impression of them and not caring at all about what impression I'm making on them, then that probably means I'm not that interested or it's not that exciting to me. So I think just consciously trying to keep that balance of, like, if you find yourself overly concerned with how do they see me, ask, okay, well, how do I see them?
Yeah.
And it may be that you like this complementary nature. Maybe you guys are different. Just suggesting an alternative to the scenario Morgan presented. Maybe you like being the more social one in this pairing and the person who makes banter with the waiter or whoever, the public, others, and then discussing it afterwards with him. I've found that when I'm around people who are kind of shy, I become more outgoing. When I am around people who are really outgoing, I can become kind of more shy. And I think I like the more outgoing version of myself. So I may like being around people who aren't. Could be the way that they're outgoing, like people who are, I think, breaking social rules or like offending other people that might shut me down more and make me more shy, just like not wanting to participate or encourage them. But yeah, maybe you like being playing that pole of the coupling, like being responsible for external interactions and then having kind of like your own cocoon world with him.
Yeah, I love that. And I love thinking about it in the context of how have other energy partners felt like on other dates. What is it like compared to another date I went on where, this was our chemistry, or this was the role that I found myself in, and exploring, what do I prefer? What do I like? And how is this unique? And not necessarily is it good or is it bad, but trying to just be present with whatever is and enjoy whatever is. I did have another thought, though, in terms of sort of a concrete thing you can do is you can, thank God. Sometimes these things don't really come to me at all. And so you could plan a date where there is less room for boredom and silence, like where you're actually doing something, you're playing a game, you're sharing an activity where there's more of a natural flow or progression to the thing that you're doing, and there's less lull, and there's stuff to talk about. Yeah, exactly. And I don't know what's open right now where you are, but you could create something together, or you could people watch, you could I don't know. That's the end of my list. But just
things where you're both facing the same external thing rather than just sitting at a table facing each other.
Yes.
And the only distraction is like food and drink.
Yes. And even something as kind of non-activity as taking a walk, like where there's not necessarily
Right.
a specific program to it. I think being in motion and, like you said, not looking at each other just kind of creates more natural flow, and people generally just feel more comfortable opening up when they're not looking into each other's eyes, and when their bodies are already moving, it just kind of creates a looser dynamic. So that could be a good way of, ensuring that there's some kind of structure or conversational touch points, or just a socially lubricated kind of situation. And, I rarely recommend people drink, but alcohol is also a loosener of sorts. I don't know how old you guys are,
Sure.
but if that applies to you and that's something that you're interested in, that could be there's a reason why people go out for a drink when they go on a date. It does tend to loosen people up, warm them up to each other. So, all right, cool.
I think I want to echo something that Mark Manson wrote in his book, Models, Attracting Women Through Honesty. He said all of his first dates are like 3 places, spending like 15 minutes to a half an hour at each one, because being in different environments with the same person creates more of a feeling of like you've been through some things together, like you know them better, rather than just like sitting for 2 hours at a table at a cafe and talking to each other.
That's a great
So if you
point.
can walk somewhere, like go someplace different for dessert if you're doing an eating thing together, or like go shopping at a record store, a bookstore, maybe something that like one of you is interested in and something that he has some expertise in, if it's like a bookstore or something like that. If one of you has a goal, I need to get a gift for my niece or whatever, and then you can like go exploring a toy store or something like that, and going to another place, going to a park afterwards. But just like keeping it moving and being in different situations with a person, I think gives you a better idea of what's a product of their internal character versus like what's situational and they're just perhaps uncomfortable in this loud bar. A lot of introverts, one theory says, just have a lower threshold of stimulation. So they just prefer things that are a little less noisy, a little less crowded, a little less bright, move a little bit slower. So, if you go one place that's fast paced, then maybe go someplace else that's slow paced, and maybe you'll find that that person's able to engage with you better there.
Yeah, and I love one of the things that you said in the middle of that, of just kind of creating a mission or something to work, a mission, an intention, something to work on,
a mission?
like getting a
Thank
gift
you.
for someone. I love that. And again, it kind of sets up, like I said before, that sense of like, we're here to do something and there's some kind of structure. And we can always come back to talking on that if there's a lull. You could even set it up sort of like a scavenger hunt. Like, okay, we're going to find something that is, okay, what would be the best, the thing my grandmother would like the most, and what would be the thing that my dog would like the most. I don't know.
Yeah.
But just, coming up with different ideas for an objective.
Something that doesn't like, if you don't accomplish it, it's not a big deal, and you don't have to like dedicate.
My grandmother isn't on her deathbed.
Not something with a deadline. Right. You don't want him to feel like he's being dragged along to your errands or your work that you would be doing at another time. But if there's some like light goal like that you value his input on, that can prompt discussion, I think that'd be fun.
I love it.
Yeah, me too.
So the next question.
Knocked it out of the park.
We knocked it out of the park. Home run. Next question, sort of similar, different angle. So this one comes to us from PotatPancakes. Potato without the O. Could be PotatPancakes. PotatPancakes. So this one comes to us from
We
PotatPancakes.
both know Potato Pancakes was taken, and so they did PotatPancakes.
I love it. PotatPancakes wants to know how to avoid being a dry texter. So I've been yeah, I know. So I've been texting this guy who I really like, and our conversations have been really interesting and not dry at all so far. However, I've been known to be a dry texter in the past. I don't do it intentionally. I just won't know how to respond or have anything to add, so I just give a generic kind of response. So how do I become better at texting? How do I avoid dry conversations?
Okay. Good question, Potat. Okay, a couple basic things you can do, I think, are playing with line breaks, follow-up text. So if you're just writing in all lowercase letters, if you're using periods, I think periods have pretty much been eliminated from the texting. The only reason you should use a period is if you're really pissed at somebody and want to make a mean face after you just said whatever you said, right? Like,
I totally disagree. I use periods all the time.
For some reason, has shifted. Well, I don't want to say this, but sometimes you text kind of dry. Sometimes your texts come in. I'm like, ooh, could have sprinkled some water on this one before you threw it in the microwave.
Is this the Sahara over here, or is Morgan texting me?
Yeah.
I've got a quick fix. Emojis.
A little more steam room, a little less sauna. Anyway. Okay, so you're not sure of what to... So you're just sending things like, okay, or got it, or kind of non-responses. Saying what it makes you feel or think of, like being more willing to engage that associative machine in your brain of like, oh, that reminds me of this other time, or that reminds me of this thing. Using that can be like a good way to just like keep the conversation flowing if you feel like you're hitting dead ends. Now, when you're using that technique, I think it's important to like read the tone of the conversation of, is this person telling you something important that they want to focus on, or are they just sort of talking for the sake of having an interaction and they don't mind those switching subjects? So if somebody's telling you something heavy, something that they need to work through, then don't like divert to, oh, that made me think of this thing. But if you're hitting dead ends and it's like lighter conversation, I think that's a great technique.
Okay, I want to like switch gears and sort of have a little bit of a meta discussion about this, because this is kind of the same thing that we were telling the last question asker, which is, to me, it sounds like you are saying that so far the conversations have been really interesting and flowing and not dry. Mm-hmm. But you have this concern because historically maybe it's been tougher to achieve that flow. But I think that, and I think it's good that you're thinking about how can I continue to engage this person, because it sounds like that means that you like them and you're interested and it's working right now. I think some of the advice I want to give is to just trust that and to not condemn yourself to this history that you've had in the past, maybe with people that you're not as compatible with, to like, oh God, I'm a dry texter. Because as soon as you start seeing yourself through that lens, everything you do becomes oriented to, I'm a dry texter. How do I overcome that? How do I not be this way? Rather than living in the moment of the interaction, because that's where the creativity comes in of using the associative mechanism in our brain, or coming up with a playful conversation topic, or noticing something, or in your life, seeing something that reminds you of this person and then sending them a picture of it and say, I was thinking of this or that, whatever. Creating those associations requires you to be feeling free and flexible and creative. And in general, when we have these limiting prescriptions for ourselves and we're trying to cope with or avoid the anxiety of, well, what if I fall into this pattern that I've previously been in the past? And what if I'm this way or that way, or too dry or too this or not enough, whatever? We kind of we dig ourselves into a hole a little bit. So I think it is wise for you to be thinking about this and to be wanting to show up in a way that's vibrant and wet and juicy and not dry. But I also think you can trust the fact that it's flowing right now. And I think sometimes people say things where there isn't really much of a response, and you have to just say like, yeah, okay. And in that situation, something I like to do is just, if no response is required, like the only thing you would be saying is like, okay, I might not respond. And then the next time something that makes me think of that person just organically comes up in my life, then I reach out to them with something new and start a new conversation and kind of inject life into the relationship that way. Not always dragging out a conversation that loses momentum on its own, and feeling at fault for that. So that's a bunch of other broad strokes of things I wanted to say. And to give you a little bit more credit too for just, hey, it seems like it's going well. Not dry, very wet. It's all good. They may have the same anxiety you do.
Yeah, I think you can express this to this person in a humorous way if that comes up, if they start, if they complain about your texting, but I don't think you need to preemptively assume that that's going to happen. Maybe that last person, I'm assuming there's someone in the past that told you that your texting was dry. Maybe that person just had a high need for lots of capitalized letters at places they don't belong, and emojis, and you know how on the iPhone you can use like the slam effect or the invisible ink or that type of messages where confetti pops out and balloons and there's a heart that's drawn. You don't have to, if that's not your style, that's not your style. That's okay, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That being said, I love sending a picture because that's, as we know, equivalent to 1,000 words. It's easier in a way, but it also is kind of a bigger gesture in a way. So it kind of is the best of both worlds, where it's like really thoughtful to send a picture of like, you know, maybe something you're doing and just say you're thinking of them, depending on where you are in the relationship, or something that funny, or just a meme that someone else created. I think that when you like someone, you appreciate anything that kind of comes your way from them and just lets you know that they're thinking about you. So anytime you get that impulse, just be present with it and try to, you know, indulge it without overthinking it.
Yeah, let's say you were going to just respond okay, or like with a thumbs up, what do you call that? Annotation, where you thumbs up somebody's text, just like a confirmation that got it.
Right.
You could send a picture of yourself holding the thumbs up symbol, and maybe you're making a funny face, or maybe you're just making a normal face and you've got a water bottle on your head, or something else that's just slightly out of place, to add a little bit of, okay, if they want to keep talking to you, they can comment on that thing. That's kind of just a playful move. You can just have something out of the ordinary, something unexpected in the confirmation. It's just a picture of your face reacting to the news.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You could send a picture of you with the fat lip, you know, sticking out your lower lip, and sincerely like showing your facial expression to that.
Yes, I love that suggestion. I actually do that a lot. I will just send like a reaction to the person, and I think it makes the conversation feel more intimate, like, you know, somewhat like you're there in person. And then you get to show off your cute face to them and remind them why they like you. It's triple whammy. Sweet.
Yes.
So
great.
Yeah, I would love for you to wet text us back and write to us at freeadvicepodcast@gmail.com and just let us know how it's going, and let us know what you've tried and what, you know, how it's going. I already said that. Whatever. Just let us know. And we want to hear from you. We don't think you're dry. We want to hear from you. All your potato goods.
No.
Yeah. So do you want to take one more question?
I think so.
I think so too. Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. This one comes to us from Spader623. Oh. A lot of people I'm trying to become friends with don't put in the effort. I don't know why. Whether it's flaking last minute, me having to remind them we're meeting tomorrow, saying they may be free this weekend and will let me know, they don't, inevitably. I'm not a priority in their lives. It's not that I'm upset that I'm not. I know I'm a new person, but it's frustrating that I don't get some decent respect. I don't flake last minute, and if I do, I immediately reschedule. I get back to them on if I'm free or not. I don't waste time. Why should my time be wasted? Why should I be seen as less important? I don't get it. It seems to happen often, and it's immensely frustrating. What can I do? Also, since I forgot to do this, I'm in Canada and 24 years old.
Yeah, I think, thanks for the question. That's a frustrating trend that I think is happening amongst young people in particular.
Goddamn young people.
Unreliability. I know. Could be that we have too much access to other people. We feel like we undervalue individuals because of the seemingly infinite pool of the internet and all the connections that can cause us. It's a bummer, and I hope that if you can find a different, so keep looking is my main advice. There are other people who share your values, and they will appreciate the heck out of you for being reliable when they meet you and when they've gone through the same, I assume, bullshit with people that they're trying to befriend too. Yeah. Keep looking.
Yeah. This sucks to feel on this end of things, like, again and again. And I'm someone who has definitely been here. I was an only child and was always so thirsty for interaction with other people, and often got flaked on, or people were too busy. And I was really immersed in that disappointment because I had nothing else going on. And that was sad and really fucking sucked. And now as an adult, conversely, I've admittedly been the other person. I've been the person who has flaked or dropped the conversation or not prioritized spending time with someone. And so I definitely have, while I don't think that there are much more, there are polite ways to do it, there are respectful ways to do it, but I certainly have compassion for both sides of this predicament. And I do think that Rob is right. I think that people are just pulled in too many directions and spread themselves too thin and think, oh yeah, I can meet up with this person or talk to this person or hang out with this person and do all these other things that I'm not factoring in when I'm saying yes to them. And I do think people should be more upfront and honest, myself included. This is a weak point for me, of being more upfront and honest about things that maybe aren't my priority, rather than trying to do it all and then letting someone down in the end. My advice for you is, yes, keep looking for people that are your tribe, and have those same values of not letting other people down and being as reliable and communicative. But I think it would also be really, it would really help you to see if you can put yourself in someone else's shoes and imagine the best case scenario of why they've not responded to you or communicated to you in the way that you would have liked, and see if you can drum up some compassion for that situation, or maybe even thinking of a circumstance where you let someone down. Because I think that that may be advice that frustrates you to hear. But I think that having more compassion for those people, and then therefore the parts of yourself that are wounded by those people, will generally help you to just feel a little bit more at ease and not so gripped and attached to the narrative that this is something that you're doing that is evoking this behavior in people, or that these people are the enemy in some way. Because I absolutely think you don't deserve to be treated this way. I'm not trying to defend what they're doing so much, but I am trying to help you maybe depersonalize it, and feel less offended or disappointed by when these things happen, because they do happen and they really fucking suck. And we tend to personalize things because we'd like to think that all of how everyone treats us is completely under our control. And sometimes it is, but often it's not. And then we're kind of running ourselves through the ringer for no reason. And I would hate to see you exhausting yourself trying to chase people that like you said, aren't going to prioritize you. That's not a fun place to be. And that tends to happen in batches, I've found in my life, where it'll happen all at once with like 6 different people, and then I'll be on the other side of it. And it's a really frustrating pattern to find yourself in. But I think the way out is always trying to see things from a new perspective, or thinking about, okay, well, what do I have control over? My relationship with myself, and how I make time for myself and the things that I enjoy doing. That was a big exhale.
I even want to say maybe there's something that you could learn from. It's possible that you're doing something that is turning people off. I think most of the time it's bad luck until you find your group of people. I don't want to make that the first assumption, but maybe there are attitudes that worked for you in the old place that you came from, and in this new community, people have a different politics or a different norms, and you could be unconsciously saying things that like used to give you in-group access that now people are looking at you like that's not so cool. They're judging you for it. So I think if you found someone that you really liked and trusted, and they seemed like a reliable person, they're dodging you, you may be able to ask like, hey, am I doing something that turned you, like ask for some kind of feedback? Am I in some way screwing up this social interaction? Like I was expecting to be friends, and this has been happening to me. I'm trying to improve myself. Like, can you give me some kind of a feedback? I've had those interactions with people before where like I told them why, hey, I thought you were an asshole for like taking photographs of there was this girl who took photos of girls who got too drunk and posted them on a blog to like shame them. And I was like,
oh my God,
that just seems like a really shitty, she didn't drink herself. And I was like, that, I just really disliked that.
Yeah.
And she said, thank you so much for telling me that. Like, this is what allows me to improve as a person. And I just because that person exists, I can't assume that you are not perhaps doing something. It could be something subtler.
Have you ever had the conversation the other way, where you've asked someone, what can I do to shift how people respond to me?
I don't think so.
I think that would be a fun assignment for us to do.
Yeah.
I'd like to do it.
I think so.
I'm always looking for those little bits of intel.
I don't have too many, like... Also, one thing that I hadn't brought up yet, I don't know exactly what it's like in your area, but I feel like the coronavirus has just added an element of unpredictability, and like last-minute cancellations are going to be a lot more common, and people like in the moment getting anxious about seeing people, even remote activities that don't spread the virus, that don't put you like at risk of contracting it, could be like just people have more uncertainty in their lives and more that they have to be reactive to because of that situation. So I think everything has gotten a little bit less reliable.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because I think people are just feeling more spread thin and have more ambient overwhelm and anxiety in their lives in general, even if it's not directly related to COVID right now. It's because of that uncertainty. And maybe for them, hanging out with someone new evokes social anxiety, and maybe it's more about that.
Yeah.
But the other thing I wanted to say is pulling out this one particular line. I don't waste time. Why should my time be wasted? Why should I be seen as less important? I think I always like to look at our relationships with other people as mirrors to what's going on within ourselves. It's always on some level reflecting back something, because if we weren't perceiving it at all, that's the only way it's not something that's happening within us as well. So I know you're saying I don't waste time. Why should my time be wasted? I would wonder, are there things or experiences in the past where you have felt like you've wasted your own time, or maybe you're not 100% happy with how you've been spending your time, or you don't like the result. Maybe you're spending your time in all the right ways, but you're not getting this certain result that you want. So I would encourage you, even though you do feel that you're not wasting your own time, I would encourage you to look at your relationship with time, because it seems to evoke frustration for you that other people would waste it and disrespect you in that way. And so I always think that there's valuable insight to be culled just from asking yourself on that hypothetical level, like, how do I feel about how I've been spending my time, both alone and with other people? And is it as satisfying as it could be? And where are the places where I feel that I haven't respected myself enough? And they may not jump out as obvious answers, but if you start to open that dialogue with yourself and you start to see things through that lens, you might pick things up that you haven't really recognized before. And it could give you some interesting insight into why for you is this evoking a lot of emotion or frustration. And maybe you don't see it that way, because I know you did say, it doesn't really upset you that much. But if you're bothering to write this question, there's some kind of sticking point here. I know that for me personally, when I look back at how raw it feels for me to be disappointed by someone, or to feel like I made a plan with someone and they flake out. I look back to my childhood and I realize, like, the way that I grew up and how lonely and isolated I felt really felt life or death to me. And it was just, I was saturated in these experiences of being disappointed by people who had made commitments to me. And so that became this very sensitive issue to me, even now, as an adult. And so just having that awareness and recognizing that this isn't just about this moment right now and this person and you. It's part of a larger fabric, and there are probably patterns that you could start to look at that would inform you of, oh, there's all these older dynamics that have gone on in the past that are related to this. And that could also be an angle through which you could start to understand, what might I be doing unconsciously to evoke this behavior in other people. But it's hard to know where that line is of what am I doing? What are they doing? And where is the problem happening?
Yes, it is. And it's especially a challenge being in a new place where you don't have much of a social network yet. It'll happen. It just may take longer than you want. But the more you try, the more you do, as Morgan said, and examine your past and your sensitive points. I think the more successful you'll be, and the more you'll enjoy in the meantime as you build that community.
Yeah.
A couple concrete tips I just wanted to throw in at the end are, I think, more specific plans, like instead of saying, hey, want to go to the park next weekend, saying like, hey, Saturday at 11 a.m., do you want to meet up from a picnic? Do you want to like grab some things from Whole Foods and meet up for a picnic? Or like have a specific date and time rather than general things, I think can make people more likely to give you a concrete answer or commit to it. Especially things that like require reservations. I don't know what's open around you now, but like, do you want to meet at this place at this time for this show? That can be better. And then picking times that that other people are likely to be able to make it, and not like after they have to do other things. So I think earlier is better than late. People often underestimate their willingness to drive someplace far away at the end of a day, once they've already done a bunch of other things, and assume that they're going to have more energy than they do. And finally, managing like the shame that people feel when they turn someone down for something. Like if it's become really difficult to plan something, or they've said no a couple times, then like even when they are available, it might make them start to see themselves as like an avoidant person in your eyes, and then just act like avoid the situation out of shame of that. So I think it can be helpful to like pick times that they're likely to be free upon the first request or second request. And if they ask you to do something that you can't do, suggest an alternative. Be like, I'm busy that day, but how about the next day and this thing? And if someone isn't suggesting alternatives to you, maybe they don't want to hang out that much.
Yeah. Which is always hard to stomach. But if you dwell on that instead of trying to create opportunities to connect with someone who is interested in hanging out with you, then, you're not helping the situation. You're stewing in that, disappointment stew. I wanted that to be a pun, but then it just so clearly wasn't. One other thing about like the time specificity, I don't know why I thought it would be a pun. The time specificity, this has helped me a lot, is instead of saying like, oh, I'm free, like whenever, you're thinking like, oh, I'm going to communicate over availability. Like, oh, I'm so free all this time. And when someone asks like, when do you want to hang out? Instead of saying like, giving that blanket, I'm free, da 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 da, say, how about this specific time? Like making that choice instead of communicating, I can do whenever, it just has a different energy to it. I think there's something like a little bit more like concrete and authoritative and easily digestible about that versus like when you say I'm free like anytime, it kind of puts the onus then back on that person to come up with a time that they're free rather than just saying yes or no to the window that you've suggested.
They may respect your time more if it seems like you respect your time and have other plans, even if you don't, just that you are scheduling your time and don't want to be like reactive day of to whenever it's convenient for them.
Right. And choosing a time window that isn't just like the only time that you're free, if you're free a lot of the time, but choosing what would be the optimal time for me to do this activity and suggest that. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's good.
So I hope that is helpful. And I want to know, I'm really eager to know what kind of shifts you might make or frustrations you might continue to have on hearing our advice. So please do write us back at freeadvicepodcast@gmail.com. Do you have anything else that you want to say?
Yeah, tell me how you're meeting new people, because I'd love to meet a new person. It's been months, man. I'd love to make a new friend.
Yeah. I have something else to share in the category of listener feedback.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
Yeah. So last week we answered a question from Stud Muffin Man about he and his partner are moving in together, and neither of them had lived with a partner before. And he said,
right.
Yeah. He said, finally got a chance to check out your podcast. Thanks for the advice. Definitely going to share it with the girlfriend, and hopefully everything will be copacetic. I love that, because listening to the podcast together and not just, trying out the suggestions if they're related to another person can really help just kind of have it coming from multiple angles and not be filtered through anyone's side or anything. And I love that you are sharing it as an activity, and hopefully it sets the stage for you guys to be on the same plane and, get along and have things run smoothly in this new endeavor that you're entering into. I love it. Thank you so much for listening.
I'm happy that you're keeping the word copacetic alive. That's a great word.
Oh my God. It really is. I don't use it nearly enough.
Copacetic.
It sounded smart as shit, and it's beautiful. The hard C and then the soft C. What a winning combo. And then the hard C again.
Yeah.
It's a soft C sandwich.
Someday when you're having a moment of calm and peace and you're living together, just turn to her and look at her, nod, and say, copacetic. Smile. Just bask in it.
Bask. Just bask.
Imagine that moment and then build it.
You can. According to Bob the Builder. Yes,
I don't know if they're going to listen to this again. Maybe I shouldn't be giving them more advice on this episode. Whoops.
It's cool. I think everyone can take advantage of using the word copacetic in their lives.
That's true.
But yeah, so if you're listening to this podcast and we just gave you advice, or you have a question that you want us to give advice on, please email us at freeadvicepodcast@gmail.com. Any and all calls for advice, feedback, comments, whatever the fuck, we want to hear it. We do this for you guys. We love you, and we have so much fun.
It's a free service.
It's free. We offer it free of charge.
We get a lot out of it. Just talking to each other.
Yeah.
Feeling seen, feeling heard.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
All right, everyone. Snuggle up next to your favorite pillow. Catch some good night sleep.
Or day sleep, whenever you prefer to sleep.